after a 13-year wait, Avatar 2 is finally out, and I'm just out of the cinema, out of the way of water. I wasn't in the way of war, but you know what I mean. My name's Al, this is The Geek in Review, and this is my first reaction to Avatar 2. So if you haven't seen it, this isn't going to be viewed, spoilers, I don't have clips, it's just going to be an audio thing, but you know what I mean, I'm going to ruin some shit. So yeah, the humans are back, and there's a few time jumps at the start of this. We pick up, of course, back on Pandora, where the humans, and that's us lot by the way, are back with another plan to do no good, but I'll get to that in a moment. So what's going on in this sequel essentially? Well, it's a sort of revenge story, it's a sort of family story. One of Jake's sons, the adopted one, and again I'll get to that in a minute, is captured by the humans because of course he knows where his father and the rest of his family are. So basically Jake has to up sticks in where he meets the new water tribe on Pandora. And this is where he discovers the way of water, sort of. And I'm sure you've heard it before if you've watched reviews of this film already. There isn't a lot of plot to this. Some of the characters do get fleshed out a little bit more, especially Quaritch or Stephen Lang, the villain from the first film. He gets a huge arc in this. But beyond that, there's a lot of time and not a lot of story. We get some setup for sequels and we get some really significant questions when it comes to what's going to happen next for some characters as well. So what's this film all about then? So as I said, it's a father and son's story, and it's also a sort of anti-whaling movie, well, primarily as well. And man, they didn't let any of that slip in the trailers because I had no idea what this film was about going into it. I thought it might be a sort of Jake Sully teaching his kids the way of Pandora, and I thought, well, they're just rehashing the first one, what's the point to go and see it? And they sort of do that, but they do it in a very sophisticated way that I'll mention in a moment. But what are the humans up to? So they're whaling, as I said, on Pandora, as they can extract this chemical from the whales once they're dead that extends human life. So mortality's now on the cards, or immortality's now on the cards, and that's a new big thing. Which, yeah, is an absolutely huge thing, and I can't believe they kept that out the trailers as well. It's weird that it never came up in the first film, and speaking of the first film, unobtainium, that thing that they were killing the entire planet for, doesn't really get a look in this sequel, which again, I think is a little bit odd, and I'm not sure how much of this film's story is going to stand up to criticism or repeat viewings. But yeah, it's about family, both Na'vi and human, because to explain Jake Sully's adopted human son, he was in the original, we just never seen him on Pandora, and he was too young to be frozen to take back to Earth, so they had to leave him on the planet. Which is pretty fucked up when you think about it, and that's why you've seen a human teenager in amongst all these big blue creatures in the promotional material. Oh, and by the way, he's Stephen Lang, aka Quaritch, aka the villain's son called Spider. So yeah, that's another bit of a twist that they managed to hide from us. So when his dad comes back in his new avatar body, it's him that's got to teach his new dead dad the way of the Na'vi. Not the water, you thought I was going to say that. No, all the stuff that Jake learned in the first... all the stuff that Jake learned basically in the first film, he's got to teach his dad because he's now back. So just to quickly go over it, so the villain from the first film, that's Spider's dad, and he's dead because he died in the first film. His adopted dad is a human, aka Jake, who's in a Na'vi body, and his new dad is still dead, but he's back in an avatar body, sort of. So yeah, they cloned the villain from the first one, but they started the process before the events at the end of the first film. So he doesn't know who Jake is, he learns through watching a video of himself saying, look, if you're watching this then I'm dead and this is what's happened and you've got to go and take care of these people. So yeah, it's a revenge quest without the person remember. So it's a sort of revenge quest for him, but he doesn't really remember being wronged. But his character for me is an absolute favourite and standout in this, and the fact that they are creating these cloned troopers in the V bodies raises a lot of questions, and I'm going to get to that at the end of the video. But all the soldiers, essentially, from the first film were backed up, so it's the same bad guys but blue. And speaking of being back, Sigourney Weaver is back as well as sort of the same character. I mean, the origins of this I'm not going to get into it because it could get very sticky, but yeah, her character's origins, they're going to need to really explain that definitively, otherwise it leaves a lot of dark doors opened. And she's another one of Jake's adopted kids who is a little bit human. If you look at her face, you can see she's got eyebrows and a little bit more human characteristics, and she's essentially connected to the entire planet through Eywa. She can control things, and she's now seemingly having the Immaculate Birth as well, so there's going to be big things for her character going forward. But I wonder how many of these Avatar films has Sigourney Weaver got, or how many have been filmed already? Because she's playing a teenager in this film, despite Sigourney Weaver being in her 60s. At least she might be a little bit older than that, but yeah, I just can't really see her playing the same role in future films, other than the third one, because they've probably filmed a lot of that already. So yeah, humanity has nearly solved immortality, and this is a big question for me that they don't really answer. Like, how has this affected things back on Earth? I'm going to do a video on why there's certain things that I don't like on Avatar, and I'm glad I waited till I've seen the sequel so I can add this in, because a lot of the big questions that these movies raise don't really get answered. And it's clear that this is going to be set up for the next film or films, but man, yeah, definitely have more focus on explanation on what's going on with Earth, because they say that buying this drug is only 80 million, and I can't remember what the price they say for unobtainium is in the first one, but I'm sure it works out to be a little bit more than that. But yeah, another fascinating thing about this film is the cloned soldiers. So, you know, can they make these guys en masse? Are they considered individuals, or are they property? And also, because they're in the V bodies, it means that they can't ever really go back to Earth. So are they stuck on Pandora? And if they are stuck there, surely they're going to see it as their home and want to defend it, so they might turn against the humans themselves. A few good points that, again, might get brought up in the sequels. And also, what happens if you bring someone back that didn't want to come back, that's maybe religious or something else like that? Again, a lot of things in this film that they bring up are really interesting points that they don't explore enough, at least for me. But if you've seen the film, let me know what you think in the comments below. Now, I know I've said a lot of things and they might come off as negative, but this film does look absolutely phenomenal, and it's a great experience. And I do mean an experience, because that's what James Cameron is delivering here. He's taking us back to a totally immersive world that he created, and literally every blade of grass has had his eye on this. And you can see why they waited so many years for this sequel, because it's an absolute jump up from what they were doing in the first one. Everything looks 10 times better. The water stuff is the best water stuff since James Cameron last decided to make a water film, which I think was Titanic or The Abyss, depending on your point of view. And the performances do look more natural. There's a lot more motion and expression in the faces that sort of hides the fact that Sam Worthington can't do that when he's playing a human. And although, yeah, clearly this is a sequel, this is a franchise that's been around for 13 years, that's only the second installment, where if you look at something like Star Trek or The Walking Dead, or anything these days, we're getting spin-offs and prequels left, right and centre. So I'm glad that James Cameron does have the sort of level of creative control that he has over this. And I think this is definitely, let's say, going to set up some big things in the next film. If you're asking me what I think a potential Avatar 3 could be about, now that the humans in Na'vi bodies and we know that the Earth is dying, I think that humans might try and change the atmosphere on Pandora to make it more habitable for them. Because the first film was about the forest, the second film is about the water and the ocean, so the third film could be about the air. I think that'd be an interesting development, especially with these clone troopers, like I say, who now need to breathe the native air on Pandora, so how would they react to that? There's a lot more interesting things in here as well, but I want to give the film another viewing before I get a little bit more deeper into it. And whether you like this franchise or not, it is going to be around to stay, but is it going to make as much money as the first one? As always, we're going to have to wait and see. If you've made it this far, thanks for watching. If you are going to post comments and spoilers below, hey, that's fine, but just maybe type spoilers for people that haven't seen it. But then again, why are you watching this video if you haven't seen the film? My name's Al, thanks for watching.